guys! So, welcome to this week's video. Since it is the first week of August, I wanted to talk about going back to school. Going back to school is something that every kid dreads. We all want the summer to last a little bit longer. We all want that little extra time in the sun, in the pool, at the beach. But it is inevitable and school's gonna come. So, I wanted to talk about some things, organization tips that can make going back to school easier for you guys or anyone going back to school. Now, for me, going back to school was one of the hardest things I always did because I did not like school. I was not very good at math and I, had a hard time with that. I wanted to be like everyone else. I didn't understand why I was in a different math class than my friends were, why I had to leave my class to go to a different math class at the end of every day. And then even in high school, I knew it then why, because I had a learning disability in math and it just didn't make sense. And part of that was because I don't exactly know the name, but I kind of had the dyslexia version for math, which is where I invert and flip numbers. So I would read numbers not backwards, they would switch places. And I would read number sequences and there would be a 3 at the end and the 3 would automatically come to the front and vice versa. So it took a lot of people and a lot of people not giving up to drill math into me. So for me, school was always hard, and I think that a lot of kids dread going to school, especially if you are going into high school and you've left, 8th grade safety and you're going into the big pond that is high school. It can be a little daunting. It can be a little scary. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous. I was nervous when I started college at 18. I mean, that's an even bigger step. That's leaving your home. But going back to school can actually be really fun. And I hope that some of these tips and stuff that I talk about help you. And the first thing I want to talk about is your bag choice. Now, in high school, I used a bag that was not very proper for me. I wish I'd used a backpack. I now do have a backpack. You've seen it in my travel video, my trusty buddy. I wish I had a backpack instead of what I had, because I had this monster. And it's wider than I am. Like, body wide, it's wider than I am. And in college, I really didn't have anything much better. I just used a smaller saddlebag. This is my bag from college. I liked it because it was lavender. And it had pouches in it for books. But these are not practical, guys. Not practical. If you want practical, get a backpack, because the weight distribution is even with the backpack, and this just isn't needed. I mean, some kids like the whole saddlebag. I did. I still do. All my purses are saddlebags. But, I mean, come on. You don't need a bag this big. But I will say that in that I did like this because it had a pocket on this side for pens and pencils, and it was mesh inside, so nothing got out. And then on this side it had another mesh pocket, which is where I usually had my cell phone and stuff. But in my backpack, I always had a few essentials, and I always made sure that I was organized. And the first thing that I always made sure that I had was 2 things. 1, I always made sure to have notebooks. Notebooks going back to school are essential. They're needed. You can't get away with it. This notebook is one that I had from college. And as you can see, it is like literally filled with notes and then doodles on the back. But always have notebooks and folders, and always make sure you have one of these, because you never know when you're going to lose one or give one away to someone, they don't return it. So always make sure you have a bunch of notebooks and pens. The other thing is, if you really want to be organized, which I always needed to be because I needed to know where things were at all time. I know they have better ones now that actually have notebooks in them, which I wish they had. Because in my school, they didn't. They had Trapper Keepers, which are these things. This is actually the Trapper Keeper I had in high school. I still have it. But there's no binder in it. There's no bindings, which is what they have now. And it had a folder on this side and a folder on this side. And then a little thing that, oh, look, it carried a floppy disk. That just stated how old this is it still has a floppy disk in the floppy disk pouch. But I kept my notebooks and folders in here. The folders usually slid in here, and I kept the notebooks open, and then it just closes and Velcros. But I always felt this was really handy because everything was in one place, and I could just whip it out and open it and find whatever subject I needed. And also on that topic, if you can, get bright colored notebooks. Get like red, yellow, purple, blue, green, any notebook with a light thing, and write the subject on the front. Math, English, science, biology, chemistry. Write the subject on the front so you don't have to flip through the pages and try to find out what subject it is. I learned that the hard way because that's how I usually did it. But always write the subject on the front. Always have an organizer. And like I said, they have better ones now that actually have 3-ring binders so the notebooks can loop through and they're not roaming free. With that, always make sure that you keep an assignment notebook. If you don't have an assignment notebook, get a little journal. I had this one in college, and I since ripped out the pages so I can start over. But I had this, and I would just write the date and the class and write down my assignments for the week. Or if you are someone who likes to use their smartphone, write it down in your calendar and like you can set up a reminder for like a week before time, a day before. But I always prefer to hand write them and then go through it at the end of the day and start whatever I needed to do. So those are my organization tips. Now, with backpacks, you need a backpack that's going to accommodate your book size. Don't get a really cute backpack that's like this big and this big because it's cute and little and fun, because it's not going to be practical, because books range in sizes. For example, this was one of my college books. Very small and very, very thin. Now, in college, like high school, I had like 6 classes in a day, and I didn't always go back to my dorm room, or in high school, I didn't always go back to my locker. Usually, I hated going back to my locker. There's not enough time in the hall periods to get to your locker to change out your books. So I always had to go at lunch, and I always had to have my morning books in my backpack when I got to school, and then my evening books in for the latter half of the day. And then I'd go, obviously, when I got to school, and I would make the switch to morning schedule. And then at lunch, I'd go and I'd make the switch to afternoon schedule. And then at the end of the day, I'd go back and get whatever books I needed for homework. So make sure that you have a backpack that can accommodate books, because they can range from this to this. This was my English book. It's a ridiculous amount of pages. I think the last page is 1,163. I mean, that's a big book. And this was my Norton Anthology American Literature Volume C. I do have A and B and D, E, F, because there were 2 sections in his class. There's A, B, C, and then the second D, E, F. This is volume C, so this was the first half of the class. But books can range in sizes. As you know, textbooks are even bigger. They're wider. They may be thinner, but they're wider and taller. So sometimes a bag like this can come in handy because it's quite wide and big, but it's nothing that a backpack wouldn't be able to accommodate either, and it has 2 straps. And another thing with saddlebags, yeah, they're great. They will do the job. But with me, I never use it how I'm supposed to. I never put it across my body. I just slung it over one shoulder, and that's pretty much how I walked with it. So always get a backpack to accommodate your book size, because unless you want to carry your books, you're going to want to put it in something. Every woman in high school and college, mostly high school, needs some woman time. Lady time. It's gonna happen. Especially when you have gym class. So, always keep an emergency kit with you in your backpack or in whatever bag you use in your locker. Always keep an emergency kit of stuff for emergencies. This was mine in high school. It was very tiny. Very tiny, very thin. It fit in my locker. It fit in either one of my bags I used. And I kept everything inside. And you don't need a ton of makeup, guys. I mean, I kept one universal fluffy brush. Obviously, these are not the products that I had in here in high school. I've used them. But this is pretty similar to what I kept. I had one fluffy brush. I usually had something for my eyes because when you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're tired. So usually I needed something to put under my eyes to refresh them. I usually just kept one little tiny blush palette. I didn't care whether it was winter or spring or fall. I just used the same color, and it was usually like a pink. And let's be honest, I usually didn't even wear makeup. I just always had it in case. You need one mascara, a lip gloss. I liked nude. I wasn't the kid that needed tons of makeup on in high school. I just usually had a nude chapstick. You need an eyeliner. That's it. That is your essential. Throw on some eyeliner, some mascara, maybe a little concealer if you have spots. It happens. But I always found that even if you just do your eyes with some really quick eyeliner and really quick mascara, it just brightened your face up. It just opened your eyes and you looked more awake than you really were. And if you're someone who takes gym every day like I did, because in Illinois you have to take gym every day, you always want to carry a little deodorant. Now, this is a full-size deodorant and it fit in this bag. You can take a little one, but always carry a deodorant. And always carry a little thing of body mist. Especially if you have gym early on in the day and you don't have a chance at the end of the day to kind of freshen up after gym class. I think my freshman year I had gym second period. So you have gym second period and you're walking around all day after working out pretty much and after playing 45 minutes of sports. So I learned very quickly that sometimes you just need to have a little bag of stuff. Now also in this I would keep anything I needed for feminine problems. I just stuck them in there when I needed them. They weren't always in there. I always kept an emergency stash in my locker. But if it was that time, I just shoved them in here and this just stayed with me then. Also, if you're in a high school that does swimming unit, it's always good to have multiple hair ties in the bag and a little travel brush. And you can always tie these around the brush handle because nothing is worse than getting out of the pool and not having a hair tie and having ratty hair. So just throw it up in a hair tie, whether it's a ponytail or a top knot, you know, whatever. Just throw it up. It's out of your face. You don't have water dripping down your back. Always have hair ties. If you're in the winter and you have gym class, I recommend it might take 2 minutes. Just run your hair under the dryer. like a hand dryer, because the double side of that is I do ninth period, the last period of the day, and in the winter and it's snowing, I have to go outside in wet hair, so guess who got sick all the time? Me. It happens. So that is my little emergency kit tip. If you're someone who is a little anxious going into school, whether it's high school or college, mainly high school, if you're someone who, like me, is anxious, there are a few things that I found really helped me calm down. And one was I always had an iPod with me or a CD player. I always had some way to play music because you do get free periods sometimes, and in those free periods you can relax, you can calm down, you can go get, a snack from the vending machine, a water, whatever you need. So you can kind of take that time to relax, and I used to put them in just to tune out the world and just kind of relax. Another thing is always carry, if you want to, a little fun book to read. This is obviously massive. I wouldn't have ever carried a book this big. I would have carried a paperback. But I found that sometimes if you get bogged down in school and it's like class after class after class, sometimes at lunch or if you have a free period, if you just have a book that you really enjoy reading for fun, that it almost kind of makes you relax a little bit. It kind of lets you read something other than school reading and academic reading, which I know can be a lot, and it can be kind of stressful and daunting and overwhelming. So sometimes a little reading outside of school genres helps de-stress. I used to read a lot during lunch because I had a 40-minute lunch, and even though I sat with friends, I still sometimes cracked out a book and read a little bit just to relax. Another thing is if you're someone who is really, really anxious going into school and really nervous and you have a hard time making friends, one of the easiest things that I found to do, and part of this was me being kicked in the butt to do it, was to either join a sport or a club. Anything really would work. I was not a fan of clubs. I didn't want to stay at school later than I had to be or come earlier than I had to be. So I found that sometimes joining like a little sport on the side was fun, like intramural. I got really, really lucky and discovered that I thoroughly enjoyed rock climbing, and I was very fortunate that my school offered rock climbing. So I always kept a little bag of stuff that like I could do in the sport. Now this is my rock climbing bag from high school. It's a Nike, and in here I had my climbing shoes, which are Mad Rock climbing shoes, and they are yellow. And yes, these are really hard to get on. You do definitely struggle. I always carried this with me because I never knew when I get the opportunity to do a climb in my day, outside of like the hour that we met. I always carried a extra Bison chalk ball because you always got to keep your hands pretty chalky so you don't slip. And with that, I always had my Bison ball bag. Now this is really disgusting and really old. I should probably wash this. But this is actually the Bison ball bag I used in high school. And it comes with a belt, and you clip it, and you just kind of like tap it with your hand like that, and chalk comes out. Or you can do, chalk everywhere. Or you can do what other people do and open the slide and actually like rub the ball in your hand. Another thing, I want to see if it's in here. I don't. Oh, it is. Yay. Was adhesive tape. Because with rock climbing, you get cuts and you always have to tape it. So I found that joining a sport, joining a club, it allows you to meet people kind of without a commitment in a way. I mean, it is a commitment, but it's a way for you to join something and have people be in the same boat as you. and have people be in the same club and have the same interests. And if you're a sport, you know, if you're a jock and athletic, then it allows you to be in a sport with people who enjoy it. And that really helped me ease into school and meet a group of people who I fit in with and who I really bonded with at the end of the day. And if you're still nervous, you know, it's okay to take a step back and just say, you know what, I'm overwhelmed. It is an overwhelming task, you know, starting school again after summer or starting a new school. So it's okay to take a step and kind of just be like, whoa, I need a minute. I've done it. I know most of my friends have done it. And if there was one thing at the end of this video that I would say, it's that go into high school with positivity. Try your best to go in with an open and positive mind, because know that at the end of the day, whatever happens is not forever. It's not a life sentence. You're not going to be there forever. You will eventually graduate and move on to college or other things if you so choose to follow that path. It is not forever into school to be like, oh, this is going to end eventually, because in your mind you're going, oh, I have like 200 days of this, plus 3 or 4 years, plus 2 years if you're a sophomore, or a year and a half if you're a junior. So just realize that it's forever, and realize that at the end of the day, the only person who makes that experience is you. You have utter control over how your high school experience unfolds. Looking back, I really wish that I had tried harder to make my high school experience more positive, because it really wasn't. There was a very small sliver of it that was good, and it was like the end of my junior and into the beginning of my senior year that it was really good. And the other part of the time, I just hated it. And I wish someone had, like, slapped me in the face and have said, it's your attitude. You can literally make your attitude whatever you want it to be. You control that 100%. And like I said earlier, I know it's hard when you're actually in school to remember that, but if something's going on, remember that, okay, in 4 years, that person isn't going to remember me. That person who said that about me isn't going to even remember why they said it, because you're going to grow up and mature, and it's not going to matter. And don't worry about anyone but yourself. I understand that you want, like, I'm a people pleaser, but at the end of the day, you need to focus on you. Don't try to please your boyfriend or your friends or a group of people you think is cool. Just please you. At the end of the day, just worry about you and please yourself, because when looking back on those high school memories and not them, and you're going to be the one that's going to make it what it is. So I hope this helped. I hope this gave you some tips and thoughts and ideas on how to handle school this year. And I hope everyone has a safe and amazing school year with lots of fun and dances and proms. And I hope everyone enjoys it and that you have a safe year. And I will see you guys next week. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And all my social media channels will be in the description box below. Tweet me, Instagram me, comment, whatever you'd like. I'd love to hear how your school year is going. If these helped you, let me know, and I'll see you next time. Bye!